Hi, everybody. This is Tom, and this is Culture Chap. So, today I want to do something that kind of makes some of you mad. So, there was a film I saw called Rosaline, or Rosaline, and it seems to be the real story of Romeo and Juliet. Bear with me. So, in the past, I have brought you things like people love the story of Oscar, the Sylvester Stallone movie, which is based on a play from France in French that has been translated several times. Once into English called Three Bags Full, different things. Now, people I know are mostly into the film and they want to do it exactly like the film. And where's that script? Well, it was based on a play, and the play is out there, and you can use the translated version. There's several translated versions. Okay, so you could do that, but they're very attached to the movie. They want that script. Can't have that script. You could have something similar and style it as you would gangsters, just like the Sylvester Stallone movie. There's also Murder by Death. Now, I also recommended this because it was Neil Simon. People felt like it was based on a play, and maybe it was, but that play doesn't seem to be available, and people have written to Neil Simon's on and on and on. That part of the story is boring. That'll be a boring part of this video. So I have seen people do a play called Murder by Deaths with an S. Murder by Deaths. And they have a narrator in this piece saying, look, we were very attached to the movie Murder by Death, but no play version existed. But we wanted to bring it to the stage. So we brought the characters to stage, and we got rid of the parts of the film that we couldn't do. I mean, there's a dead body or two, and then they come apart like mannequins, which we didn't want to do. So we have crafted our own piece based on the movie Murder by Death. Wink, wink. But in no way does it infringe on the copyright of the movie, which is true. The names were slightly different. The characters were similar. The movie Murder by Death was based on characters from other movies. So, were they stepping on things? They changed the name slightly. Instead of Miss Marple, it was Miss Marbles. Instead of Nick and Nora Charles, it was Dick and Dora. So this play did the same thing that the movie did. And what I'm telling you is that the movie Rosaline, which came out in 2022, based on a book called When You Were Mine, you could do the same thing. So I think it's very funny to have something out there called Rosaline or Rosaline, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and spell it, and call it, because the movie didn't call it the real story, the real untold story of Romeo and Juliet. But I think that might be an excellent title for you that would sell your piece. Now, the movie is very funny. Is it laugh out loud amazing funny? Maybe not. It is funny in the way that Shakespeare in Love was funny, where you're like, oh, that's where that came from, or that's where that came from. It is taking a familiar piece, Romeo and Juliet, and giving you an alternate version. It's very simple. So Rosaline is in love with Romeo. Of course, it's forbidden. Rosaline is a Capulet, and he's a Montague. And she sneaks him into her room and this and that, and her father is trying to get her married off. The father is very funny. The father is also a bit of a misogynist, but redeems himself in the end by busting her out of jail, which I think is a great scene. And you can expand on the father and why he needs her to get married and what are the reasons to make that funnier. I believe that you have people in your theater, in your purview, in your arsenal of talented folks that could make a very good piece like this movie without taking everything from the movie. This is where people get upset with me, but bear with me. This has worked in the past. Several theaters I have talked to, maybe not huge theaters, they took my videos about Oscar and Murder by Death, and they made their own pieces. Very funny, very big sellers, because the movies were already known. The stories were already known. The pieces have already proven themselves as far as interesting alternative pieces. Murder by Death was a huge film, a huge hit. And when you say similar, but almost like Murder by Death, people are curious and they went. Similar, but almost like Oscar the film, people went. And they explained ahead of time. Oscar, it's not exactly like the Sylvester Stallone film and Marissa Tomei, but this is based on the play that it was based on originally, and we've altered it to suit our players. Interesting. And I think you could do the same with Rosaline. Romeo and Juliet sells, and the untold story of how it happened is very funny. Rosaline has a series of hysterical suitors with very funny accents, and she rejects them, as they should be. They're mostly misogynist weirdos. And then there's a new family that moves to town. They're not from far away, but they're from a farming community. And the son, the very good-looking son, has been away at war in the Navy, and he is back, and he's meant to get married, and he's sort of in on it I guess we're supposed to go through with this arranged marriage, fake meeting. Yes, you're annoying, I'm annoying. We're supposed to go out on a jaunt or a ride or this or that. And he takes her to his boat. And it is the day of the masked ball. And Rosaline has decided to meet Romeo at the masked ball. They're meant to meet up. He's like, I can't go. And she's like, it's a masked ball. No one's going to know that you're there. It's fine. None of my family will know that you're there. And of course, the man's name is Dario. Dario and Rosaline go out on the boat, very small boat. And she's like, what if it rains? Do you see storm clouds? No, there are no storm clouds. And of course, it rains. And she can't get to the ball on time. Very upsetting. Romeo is at the ball, wandering around. Are you a Capulet? Are you a Capulet? Trying to figure out which one is Rosaline. And he meets Juliet. And, of course, he falls in love with Juliet, and the story goes from there. The supporting characters are hilarious. The nurse, played by Minnie Driver, is very dry and very funny. And a lot of the other characters are as well. And to adapt this into a play could be very good. Dario is a good guy, and through a series of adventures and mistaken letters and all those kind of things, we see just what a wonderful guy he is. And because there's really nothing happening at home with his family, living in this new place, and he's bored, and he is palling around with Rosaline, and even though he likes her, and she's all involved with the Romeo thing and Juliet, he very fairly thinks there's nothing there. And so he says, I'm going back to the Navy. I'm going to be leaving. Then we have the unfortunate fight where Tybalt dies, which was a surprise in this movie, but if it's following the same storyline, then I suppose he has to. What I'm against is the movie Rosaline and Juliet not really making that much of a big deal out of Tybalt's death. Their cousin. And I think that's a mistake. And I think you could improve upon that. Things are getting serious. We see the serious turn in this piece. And I think because it wanted to keep the humor up, we don't really address it like we should. We've seen a lot of things on TV shows recently where someone dies and it's just sort of, oh, how sad. And they move along with their lives. There are other things about grief where it keeps coming up. And you can still be funny and still talk about the death and how serious this situation has gotten. The story moves ahead. Dario is going to go back, but she doesn't want him to. She realizes that she likes him. And then the whole, we're trying to stop Romeo and Juliet getting married. They don't make it in time. Dario and Rosaline. And then the whole I'm going to kill myself. And she tells this to Dario and Rosaline. I found this great drug that makes me look like I've died, but I haven't, blah, blah. And like, don't do that. That's a bad plan. We have another plan in mind. And she's like, oh. And he's like, she took the drug. It's going to happen now. And Rosaline, he disappears because he's, doesn't want to be caught in the girls' room, which is apt. And she says, go down we're up in a room. Go down, I'll drag her to the balcony and I'll toss her over and you catch her. And he's like, okay. And he goes, he's like, all right, throw her over. And Rosaline can't drag Juliet's now, comatose body over the thing. And she gets caught with Juliet's body in her hand and she gets tossed in jail, which is wrong, but funny. And her father busts her out. And then she sort of fixes things. And there's this very funny death scene where Romeo shows up. He decides to flop on Juliet's body like he's dead. She's like, is that your plan? His plan works. Because the Capulets and the Montagues come and blah, blah, and they argue. Our kids are dead. This is your fault. This is your fault. But Juliet wakes up out of her drug stupor and she's like, what? What's happening? It's very funny. And her mother's like, my daughter lives. And she's like, oh, and she takes the last bit of poison from the fake poison that Romeo took. And she's like, ugh, and she dies again. Very funny death scene. And she's like, oh, my daughter's dead again. Damn you. You two boys, you Montague and you Capulet. It's your fault this happened. How dare you. My children are dead. Blah, blah. And it's horrifying, but very funny. And the men are like, my God, I don't even know why we're fighting anymore. I'm sorry. So the Capulets and the Montagues have a forced makeup, and the wives are the ones who are like, our children are dead. Damn you. And we have Dario and Rosaline take them, Romeo and Juliet, to the tiny boat of Dario's to sail away to start a new life. And Dario and Rosaline realize that they like having hijinks together, and they really, really like each other. They're really well suited for each other. Through this hijinks on the road, kind of like wacky stuff movie. It's very funny. And then we see Romeo and Juliet in the very small boat going like, have you been to Cyprus? No, I haven't. And they don't do much more after that. But they're like, maybe the magic is already gone. Because they don't have much to talk about. Because the whole like, oh, isn't it hot? Our families are fighting and it's forbidden. But we're married now and we're on our way to Cyprus. There's not much to that scene. With the way the lines are delivered, you're like, was that a mistake? Because here's the real love match, Dario and Rosaline. It's a very good premise. It's a very good piece. Copying the movie exactly? No, I don't want you to do that. Developing it with your people, with the talented group of characters you have in your theater group, into something wonderful, just sort of based on this loose premise, very funny. The fact that it's Rosaline, however you want to spell it, Romeo and Juliet's untold story, that'll sell your piece. And you will be showing the people in your community that our theater is clever. Look, we devised this ourselves. If you think it's like the movie, fine. Not really. Be honest about it. We were inspired by the movie and this book, maybe, and we thought we'd develop it ourselves with our own funny lines, and you can make it funnier. And we need comedies right now, and things that will sell. And this will sell because it's based on Shakespeare, and everybody goes. I do like that the movie doesn't just stay in Shakespearean language. Romeo is considered very flowery in his speech. And there's a few like, Juliet, wherefore art thou? It's back and forth. And they're like, yeah, enough. It's very funny. So you get the benefit of some of Shakespeare's wonderful speech. as prose and love poetry to each other. We're trying to be fancy with each other. And then you have a bit more dry, regular speech. Some of it's a little too modern, especially when Rosaline is like, hey, Daria, would it be cool if we borrowed your boat? That's a little too modern. Um, Daria, would you mind if Romeo and Juliet took your boat to Cyprus and you had to buy another one? That's much better. And you still get the point across. I think that this is a good piece, and I think it would show the talent of your group, of your theater, and how you want to entertain your audiences, and how flexible and interesting the pieces coming out of your theater can be. This is a good seller. This is a good idea. I was hesitant with the other times I've done videos like this with Oscar and with Murder by Death, but the few theaters who have done those ideas, I'm sure they came from other YouTubers as well, they're doing well. They're doing extremely well. Name recognition is there, and if you're honest, we liked this movie. We couldn't get a hold of the script. We made our own. It's kind of similar. It's funnier. We're bold. It's much funnier than the movie. That's pretty good. And if you have a little disclaimer or narration, I prefer to call it, at the beginning of your piece, all the better. Have a little smirk with the audience like, look what we did. Aren't we clever? We're amazing. We did this ourselves. And here's where the source material is from. And since it's different from the movie, we're not stepping on any toes, especially legally. That's pretty funny. Audiences will be on your side. And it is a wink to the audience like, look, we're all in on the joke. No one's hiding anything. Okay? And that in itself also makes news with your reviewers and your what's the word? Like your previews. When you're talking about, please come to our show, this is what it is, you know what you're getting into. I have done something that there was a play first and then a movie, and then people expected the movie. And I should have been really clear with my advertising, which was not in my control with that theater, that this was not the movie version. This was the original play version, which is slightly different than the movie. I'm not sure how they would have said that, but sometimes these things need to be said. All right? So have a look at the movie. See what you think. Rosaline, I'll put the link in and see if this piece is for you. It could be. All right? Just wanting your theaters to stay in business and give your patrons the best possible experience. And think of your theater as this creative hub of things that they're always going to love. These creative pieces. Especially, we did this ourselves. We did this as a group ourselves. That's really nice. That's really nice. People will appreciate that. And you'll be different from all the other theaters that aren't doing that. Okay? See what you think. All right, we'll talk again. Thanks.